Very good. That's what I was doing. What's going on, YouTube? Got another quick video for you here today, and I just wanted to go over the strategy and how I set up the Atlas to drop this loot here in about 10 maps or so. And I'll explain how I set it up and how we got there and the tablets that I used and all that kind of stuff. So as you can see, we got a few simulacrum splinters, a bunch of breach stones. We got some good precursors. We got a ton of them, but these are the good ones. Visions of Paradise, 10 divines, 2 perfects, 10 chances, 65 chaos, and a bunch of exalts and whatnot. So this is what we earned from this area here. So this was the region. We did have a 4th tower that kind of crept in a little bit here, but primarily the juice came from these 3 towers here. So you'll always be searching for at least 3 towers for a specific area. And as these green maps here, these are all the ones that I completed. And then the blue ones are ones that I failed. So as you can see, of this region, I failed a decent amount of maps. And the reason why I say that, and I'll get into it a little bit later, is these maps are very, very difficult, and you need a strong build to be able to complete them. And so just keep that in mind. With that being said, it does not look like a whole lot of maps, but what we did is we were able to juice this, and with the unique tablet, you're able to run each map twice so long as you complete it. So if you fail it, you lose it. But if you complete it, you will get to run it again. It just loses its irradiation. So you lose +1 to monster level, but you get to run it a second time. So if you get a really nice area, you're able to run each map twice, and it gets really out of control. So that's the loot that we dropped from this little section here. So it's not much, and it's quite a bit. We made a pretty decent profit, even if you spend a decent amount of money on your tablets. So let's just go ahead and get into that. What I did now to set this up is just so you're aware. So I had this area. I was running this area down here. And so what I did was I had this tower open first. And once I opened it, I realized that there was a huge amount of open space here, and I wasn't going to be able to take advantage of it. So what I did was I went ahead and used one of these, the Grand Project, which allowed me to basically skip all of this stuff, and it just opened up the tower, right? Because the tower is within range, it just opened it up, and I didn't have to go through any of this stuff. I was able to just skip right over. So this is a great item for you to be able to kind of bounce to a better area and not have to run every single map in that space if there's only 1 or 2 towers available. So we skipped over to this one, and then with this one, we did go all the way around. So we ran around the back so that we didn't have to take any of these maps and just cut right through the middle, because even though I failed these two were 2 of the juiciest maps that I had. They had up near 80 quant on them. So we did go around, and again, it is worth taking the time to set it up and not burning some of the good maps in between. We went around, hit this tower, and then we went around the back and hit this tower. So this one was wasted, this was wasted, etc. So as you can see, there was not a lot of maps that we ran to get this loot. And then boom, we went around the back, hit this tower, and then same thing here. We came through this way, and then we hit this one. So then that left this region completely untouched to be hit with all of our tablets. All right, so that's what we did there. The tablets that we were using are these guys here. So any variation, always quantity, 7% quantity is the ideal. That's the highest roll, but get whatever you can afford. If you can only afford 6s or 5s or whatever, then just do what you can just so that you can make sure to add quantity to all of your maps. And then whatever you prefer, strong boxes, essences, Asmiri spirits, whatever. This, however, is the big one, and this is what adds a lot of juice, but also potentially makes your map extremely difficult. So it adds a random modifier to your map. And if you're already running a super juiced map, it could add a prefix, which is going to add monsters or rarity or quantity or whatever, rare monster, whatever it is to your map. But it could also add the bad ones. It can add ailment threshold or monster life or resistances or attack and cast speed or whatever, ignited ground. So it adds random modifiers. So with each one of these that you add, it gives the map a lot of juice. But it also makes the map difficult and potentially difficult, and maybe a mod that your build can't run. So there is potential just off the rip that you can brick a map. However, it adds a ton of juice, and we'll get into a little bit more as to why that is. Then we just add breach tablets, and you can do 2 breach tablets, 1 precursor to, you know, a breach, or 2 precursor, 1 breach, whatever combination you can afford or you want to do or you want to juice. But this is what we've been running. Generally, I would run 2 precursors and 1 breach in the first tower, and then in the second and third tower, I would run 2 breaches and 1 precursor. Just to make sure that we get a couple modifiers in there, and then we get a good chance to add additional breaches. So again, you look for quantity on your breach tablets. These ones are a little bit more expensive. These ones are about 2 divines per. If you get 3 additional breaches and 7 quant, it's about, but if you drop to 6 quant or 5, the price drops dramatically. The 7% is that 1% is a huge premium, but you know, when you're min-maxing, it is worth it. So that's what we look for there. 3 additional breaches or just additional breach in conjunction with quantity. So those are our breach tablets. So fairly simple. And then we do add one of these. And this is the juice right here. And I didn't quite understand it at first, but now I do. So completing irradiated maps in maps removes irradiation instead. So if you have that tablet on here, for instance, let's see, this one. This one here has it, right? So completing irradiated maps in range removes irradiation instead. So this map has a breach and it's irradiated. If I complete this map, it will remove the irradiation but keep the breach and allow me to run it again. So it's an insanely powerful tablet if you have a juiced region. So same thing here. Let's see. The corruption would stay again unless you run the nexus. But if you ran this, the irradiated would go, the breach and the corruption would stay. Same thing here. If you ran this, the irradiation would go, but the breach and the boss would stay. So you can run bosses twice, you can run your breaches twice, you can run whatever, right? And you have to put a different map in each time, but it allows you to run the area twice. And that's where, you know, kind of the final juice comes from. These are dropping in price. They were about 2 divines. Now when I look for them, well, they're probably about 2 divines. So these are not cheap, and these are not meant to be used unless you have a really, really good region where you're like, I got to run these maps twice. So, and again, it doesn't have any quantity on it, so you do lose a little bit of quantity, or, you know, extra breaches or whatever. So you really, you know, for the price, they are expensive. It's super, super worth it if you're going to have a juice region. If it's not going to be super juiced and you don't have good tablets in there and it's not worth running maps twice, or maybe it's a bunch of Myers and auguries or something like that, like it's not necessary. But this is specifically for when you're going to have a really, really powerful area. All right, and then lastly, the Atlas tree. This is what we're working with. We are taking all of the explicit modifiers on maps. That is the most important one. Also with grueling journey, so increased effective explicit modifiers for each modifier. So right on top of that, we're adding more modifiers. If we're running an 8 mod, right? Not all of the ones I ran were 8 mod corrupteds, but the ones that do, right? You get an 8 mod. Then you're adding maybe 1 or 2 more mods on there, you know, you're up to 10 mods or so. It really starts to get out of control with explicit modifiers, and then you have, you know, blah, blah, blah. So it really goes crazy. We take the chance to increase prefix. You have a 50-50 to increase your prefix or your suffixes. It always hurts when it's the suffixes. It's fantastic when it hits the prefixes, but this is a nice, powerful kind of RNG node. When it hits for you, we take all the precursor stuff just to juice those up even more, and then we cut through the shrine just because shrines are pretty nice. There's a rarity one that shows up sometimes, movement speed, whatever. It's kind of nice just to have them, and it gives you a free pack of monsters that surrounds the shrine. So it's kind of a nice addition. Otherwise, it's all explicit modifiers, quantity, rarity, all that kind of stuff. And that is the Atlas. As far as breach, this is what we're running here. Delirium, I only have the 3 points, but so far, I mean, I guess you get unique bosses. We would take this one last, but we already get a ton of unique bosses. It's kind of whatever. They pretty much show up in every single map anyways, so it is what it is. And then the rest of this doesn't really matter. I don't run ritual or anything like that. Ritual's still great. If you are running ritual, this is the tree that I use. But I have not been running it. I've just basically been running breach and then delirium emotions. And then for the emotions, I typically run distilled paranoia. This adds rare monsters, and with 3 of them, it'll make your map 45% delirious. The more delirious you add, the crazier it'll get, but the more expensive it becomes as you add more and more and more. With that being said, we do use, because we use waystones in your maps, have a 20% chance to have random emotions. There are times where they drop with really, really high. Do I have any? So see, this one has 15%, so this one didn't roll with much of anything. But, you know, every once in a while you'll see, like this one here, this one corrupted into a T16, but this one dropped like this, and it's, you know, 77% delirious. So this in and of itself is also really nice. So you can kind of do a combination of those things. When I'm adding them, I use the rare monsters, but if they drop with a really high delirious roll, I will, you know, if I need to add one or two, I will. If not, then I do roll them and see what happens, because the more delirious, the higher the multiplier. So that's that. But that's about all. I do have a couple omens that I use. If I'm on a really juiced map and I find a researcher strongbox, I'll go ahead and hit this before I open it. That'll allow me to open it twice. And then Asmiri Spirit, same thing. If you see the super rare, I believe it's white, then I will run it again, but you never see it, hardly ever. So I leave it in here just in case, because I know that the moment I take it out, I'll see it, but you never see it. It is very, very rare. So, but that's that, guys. Again, the loot, super good. I'm going to continue to run this and just kind of keep juicing. I'll be live here shortly and pretty much every day. So if you guys want to come check it out, Twitch, YouTube, I'm on both, and you can come check out the build, check out the, you know, the loot, and I'll be setting up an atlas today. I haven't done it. So yeah, like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. I appreciate you guys, and we'll see you on stream. Peace.